Well, this happened the week before this week, but I'll talk about it now. So Jimmy Carter died, and immediately everyone came out to tell us how awesome and great he was, and how like everyone needs to not criticize him or not point out the fact that he was not awesome and great because he's dead apparently, and if someone dies, you have to pretend they were awesome and great always. And basically this comes from a complex that you Westerners have. It's pervasive among Westerners, where even like supposedly left-leaning anti-imperialist Westerners, where they expect the rest of the world to take scraps. They expect the rest of the world to willingly accept and praise people who do less than the bare minimum just because they're not as bad as other people who do, worse. As if that is praiseworthy, rather than both those people being the best you've got and you feeling a need to praise them and demand that others praise them and demand that others don't criticize them, don't shit on them when it's merited. That is really indicative of how f***ed up the West actually is. Jimmy Carter said the right words after he was outside office. He called Israel an apartheid state, which in of itself is an extremely inadequate framing that frames the problem as one of mere civil rights, give everyone equal rights and the problem will fix itself, ignoring the very issue which is at the root, which is material dispossession, actual economic dispossession, people literally losing their land and homes, just like South Africa. It's easy to just give people equal rights on paper, but the problem is going to remain at its roots if everyone keeps the economic power they stole in the first place. And, during his term, he supported the genocide in East Timor. He was in power at the time when the US was supporting the most deadly period of the Operation Condor dictatorships in Latin America, while overtly saying that he was leading a human rights campaign to investigate US allies who were committing human rights violations. The governments that he supported were massacring people in higher numbers than they were before he came into power. Fantastic, right? He also began something called the Carter Doctrine, which was basically the US declaring that the Middle East was their turf to do whatever they want in, which was then utilized by every subsequent president to create the situation of today of pervasive and disgusting genocidal US intervention in the Middle East. Carter said, "An attempt by any outside force to gain control of the Persian Gulf region will be considered an assault on the interests of the United States of America, and such an assault will be repelled by any means necessary, including military force." And this preceded an unprecedented military presence of the USA, particularly against Iran, which led to the situation of today. So he was an unabashed, murderous, genocidal imperialist, just like everyone else. And even if we were to say and accept the dumb argument that but he was somehow less bad than all the other presidents, even though he's still a genocidal criminal. I don't even know if that's true, for one. I haven't looked at the record of literally every single American president ever. But even if we accept that it's true, which again, I'm not actually doing here, I'm just saying for the sake of argument, why exactly should everyone else have to accept the least Hitler from you guys? Why? Why should we have to praise the least Hitler? Why should we have to pretend the least Hitler is a special boy? Is that really the best you have to offer everyone else? Is that how little you think of the rest of the world? That the guy who supported genocide in East Timor, the guy who backed the Argentine dictatorship as it massacred 20,000 people, the guy who openly declared that the Middle East was American territory and that the USA would undergo military force there to defend its interests, so to speak, aka massacre people who tried to do anything they didn't want. We have to accept that. We have to give him good boy points because later on he used the apartheid word 40 years after everyone else was saying it, after he had no power to actually do anything about it. No, how about no? And fuck you for daring to be like, come on, man, be nice to him. He wasn't as bad as the others. He's like the reverse Anthony Albanese, who's the current Australian Prime Minister. That guy, when he was a smaller time politician, he was really involved in the Palestine solidarity movement and stuff like that, openly denounced Israel all the time. And as he got higher and higher in the hierarchy of government, he became less and less vocally pro-Palestine. And now that he's the Prime Minister, he's literally just straight up pro-Israel. Isn't it funny how it all works? The supposed principles that these people hold are never present when they actually have the power to do something about them. And you should ask why that is, and you should stop falling for it every single time. That's the point that I want to make here. Whether they start saying the right things after they're out of power, or whether they said the right things before they were in power, you need to ask the question of why they never actually do what they pretend to care about while they're in power, and stop demanding that the rest of us accept them as if genocide, or less genocide than normal, is at all an acceptable and praiseworthy thing.